Hello, everyone. I'm Mystery.
And I'm Mortimer the Authenticator, and we are the Duality of Man. Sorry for the scheduling change. We've just been busy lately.
Yeah, I have family things to attend to. But to talk about something a lot more positive and fun, Donald Trump and Elon Musk are continuing to take a sledgehammer to the, federal bureaucracy, which is always fun to see. And it's gotten to the point where the Democrat Party, in order to be, just blatantly against Donald Trump and Elon Musk in whatever they do, are now having to defend a lot of these ridiculous government expenditures, which everybody
How
hates.
dare you unmask all the bureaucratic bullshits, apparently.
Yeah, yeah. The, I can only assume that they are just that thoroughly corrupt that they must do it, not really for the sake of being Trump, but for the sake of just protecting themselves because they're that corrupt.
That and just that like dev levels of normative institution brained. Like, oh no, you're not supposed to actually do anything about the bloated aristocratic bureaucracy. That's just a given. You're supposed to operate within and work alongside that. And if you don't, then you're weird and abnormal and immoral and every other negative slur we can append onto you, apparently.
Yeah, it's really hilarious when they do that in defense of the Department of Education. They'll go on saying about our test scores are low, our children can't read, and want to get rid of the Department of Education, and like everybody's saying, those things are happening with the Department of Education.
Well,
So
that
it's
and
clearly
of
not
course
working.
the publicly funded American education system existed for, I believe, almost a century before the Department of Education was even a thing.
Yeah, that was
And
I believe it said the '70s, wasn't it?
yeah,
And
so
so
like,
I think it was. No, you go.
go ahead,
No, you
go
can
ahead.
you can go.
Okay, but it's stunning to me that we're not saying get rid of government funded education. We're saying undo the like post Cold War consensus and like debureaucratize it. And yet everyone is saying, "Oh, Trump just wants to abolish the Department of Education because uneducated people want to vote for him more." And it's like, one, how in the hell could he possibly determine that? There's no data on it. Two, he tends to just he tends to do the most sane method of convincing people to vote for him, which is make himself likable enough and do the things they want. I know it must seem like witchcraft from where you guys are standing, but I feel it's my duty to inform you once again that the old school adage of the customer is always right in matters of taste is so much more compelling than the customer is an immoral fascist that we need to shun and shame.
Yeah, and you know, with the in regards to education, like we have these like massive teachers unions, which will make it a lot harder to get rid of teachers or reform schools because they have to go through these like massive like unions. And so like when you have like a bunch of teachers that will do like freaking TikToks of themselves, putting more emphasis on gender ideology or you know white supremacy or whatever, or just like some of them are having full blown meltdowns. You can see why the kids aren't actually learning what they need to learn. And I believe that funding is tied to how many kids pass. So like they're not incentivized to actually teach the kids; they're just like,
It's a
pushing them
rubber
through the
stamp.
door. Yeah, and so now we have people who are coming out of high school who can't even read. They're like functionally illiterate.
And we've all seen the like zoomers on the beach montages of interviewer asks like grade 3 question and people are stunned as if it's a completely different like universe they're talking about or something.
Yeah, like I heard this one guy asked a bunch of Zoomers, where's Brazil? I believe one of them said Europe.
Yeah, one of them said Europe, one of them said in America. I believe one of them said in Mexico, and it was just like, oh dear. Oh dear. Like I'm trying to resist the like perennial urge of dear God, what have the children become? But the ironic thing is Gen Alpha is not this way. Gen Alpha doesn't pull that shit. So it's literally just a problem with the Zoomers.
Well, like I want to give them a little bit of grace because the people who were supposed to be teaching them weren't actually teaching them, and I don't dislike all teachers. Obviously, there are a lot of good ones out there who often have a very hard time because again,
Because they're saddled with
can be
dealing with everyone else's bullshit. They
yeah,
have to
and
work
students
twice
can
as
often be
hard
very
just to.
disrespectful.
Yeah.
Yes. And so like it's just really compounding issues. But certainly like I don't see any problem getting rid of the Department of Education because whatever people imagine it's doing, like I believe that people think that it's supposed to, help kids learn or manage the education system. It's not doing that.
Also, I will point this out: the the test scores and things that the Department of Education was ostensibly put there to help out with have gotten worse since its inception than they were before it wasn't a thing.
Yeah. So
So, bad medicine? Question mark.
but we have some other things to talk about. Let's get into this video from Nuxnor about
Yes, Nux.
Video. Today we are going to talk about probably one of the biggest exposés in the gaming industry, and I especially wanted to say that this is a huge news, it's a huge story, and no offense to anybody, why are all the biggest gaming YouTubers and streamers silent about it? Are y'all that scared? Are y'all that scared of enraging the woke mob, all ya cowards, all ya schmussies and flussies out there? Oh, nothing's happening in the gaming industry. Anyway, it was just
Oh,
exposed that the US
sweetheart,
government literally
you were there when Gamergate was a thing. That we were some of the original vanguard of anti-SJWs back in the day. We know exactly what's going to happen if people talk about it.
yes, and it
This is
turns
where
out
it began in the first fucking place.
yes, and it turns out it was all in fact a government psyop.
who
billions of
had
dollars.
4 years and some odd months? Like, what's the old adage? The difference between the news cycle and a conspiracy theory is about 6 months to a year.
It never runs. Like, if the government spent half as much time actually governing for the sake of the people instead of trying to psyop and propagandize to them, they wouldn't have to fear them so much.
But you see, the FBI and CIA need to look into church groups because Christianity is bad. Derp.
Into wokeness in video games. I know, it's a cringe topic. It sucks. It's annoying. It's bro. The U.S. government was caught literally funding anti-Gamergate articles talking about how all the racists are playing video games, and there was a massive conspiracy theory for the longest time. Hey guys, I wonder why all these articles that are getting zero traction are getting funded. Well, because it turns out your tax money was funding it. It's one of the biggest exposés in modern culture, I think.
And I don't want to.
Elon.
I don't want to belittle him for getting to the party this late or anything, but some of us could have told you that way back in the Anita days. Brianna Wu and Zoe Quinn straight up went to the UN for sympathy when the original Gamergate was a thing. So
that was insane. I remember when that happened.
So, like, this is not news. I mean, it's news in that we have it confirmed, and cue Razor Fist, fuck you, I was right, chair spin maneuver, but it's not news to anyone who was there in 2013 when darkness was forged in the heart of Mount Doom.
Yeah, and I do like that we have it confirmed because if we can actually see it and expose this to the light of day, because as long as they can, shroud it in, the shadow of mere speculation, then it's going to continue. But now that we have like hard evidence and can expose it to like all the normies out there who, may not have been aware of this, like it crumbles more and more. Like our power
And again, the vindication of the "fuck you, I was right" variety. We told you this was important. You tried to obfuscate and demoralize and morally shame and normatively shame for 12 years, but as it turns out, fuck you, I was right, etc.
Yeah. So there are a lot of federal judges who are trying to, issue rulings to try and stop what Trump and Elon Musk are doing, and exposing the federal government. But it turns out that one, they have no legal standing to do this, and two, like Trump has the Supreme Court, so like this is all just a stop measure.
Guys, like, you tried lawfare for like 3 years and some change. What, like, are you just going, okay, so the lawfare didn't work and the assassination attempt didn't work, let's try a do-over and start at the beginning again? Is that really all you've got left? Is there no impulse to like examine yourselves and go, okay, we've tried lawfare, that didn't work. We tried assassination, that didn't work. We've been calling him Hitler since 2015, that hasn't worked and made the problem infinitely worse. Maybe the problem is with us. Whosoever is going to be the first person to say that, I wonder. And how badly will they be publicly lynched, metaphorically speaking?
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna hit the video again.
Yep.
Elon Musk's task force of wizards and testicles literally came together to expose the government for this crap. And of course, everyone's losing their mind over how Elon is not elected. Like Kamala Harris was elected in the Democratic primaries. Am I right, guys? Like she was elected, right? Like the 87,000 employees at the IRS were elected, right? Like the 10,000 employees.
Elon was a very, very public part of Trump's campaign. And everyone and their dog knew about Doge before the election. So you can't go the "this wasn't voted for" route, because one, Doge is being based as shit and the approval rating is through the roof on it. And two, this is something that Trump mentioned to people that he was going to do on as close to day one as he could manage, and he did it. So
I think, like, obviously, this is such a massive losing position that no reasonable person would take it. But I think the reason that they are taking it is because, at this point, all they basically have left is their base, and unless they do oppose it, that's gonna crumble out from under them too, and they'll have nothing.
Well, looking incompetent, I don't think is going to look much better, because poor I say poor David Pakman, although I have very little sympathy for statistics ostrich, but poor David Pakman is having to like thread the tiniest threads of coherency that he has left just to keep his channel afloat, because he keeps trying to find some sinister way in which Elon and Trump are at each other's throats, and it just ain't so. But he keeps having to peddle that narrative, because otherwise he will literally lose the entire rest of the audience he has. And I'm sure he's not alone.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Destiny is out there also taking the just utterly indefensible positions. Like, still don't understand why they give that much screen time. Like on other.
Well, I mean, Hassan Piker literally has Houthi rebels on his streams and shit, and compared a modern day pirate to Luffy from One Piece, and yet he's still the largest voice on Twitch with political sway. The world is very strange sometimes.
Yeah, but I do hope they keep it up because these are losing positions that they are being forced to defend, and the more they do, the less popular they're getting. Like, have you seen the popularity polls for
Yes.
Yeah, like Trump is above water. Like more people like him than dislike him at this point. Lots of people
No wonder,
the
because he's actually doing the things that he said he would do on the campaign trail. And it's staggering to me how rare that actually is all by itself. Not to mention the sheer pace at which he's moving, because I will remind everyone, he just got in on January the 20th, and it is not even February 20th yet. He has been in office for less than a month, and he has already accomplished more in his month one of his second term than Obama did for both of his terms and Biden did for all of his term.
yeah,
Which just goes to prove that politicians could, if they wanted to, actually deliver on their promises. They just don't feel like it because my norms and my institutions derp.
yeah, and so it's very clever because he's moving so fast. Like basically, his opposition doesn't know where to run next to get ahead of things, and so like they're leaving basically no defense um, against what Trump is doing, which is good because people elected Trump to do exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, and his ability to actually accomplish things that he promised he would accomplish is probably why he's actually so high on approval rating. Because unfortunately, ever since I was born in 1995, we've all just had to accept, oh yeah, politicians will talk completely and utterly out of their ass and then accomplish nothing for their entire term, and we're just gonna have to be okay with that. Whereas now, it's like, Trump says he's going to do a thing, Trump proceeds to do said thing. Repeat it as necessary. And
Yeah.
people I think are just mostly stunned to have a politician who actually does what he said he was going to do at a reasonable pace and prove that government can be efficient. It just doesn't want to, apparently.
Yeah, and like they're uncovering all these like wasteful things, and it makes Trump look like a freaking hero for trying to stop all this. And anybody that opposes him is like just setting their political career on fire.
Not to mention utterly base takes like, let's abolish the income tax and just let sales tax be a thing.
Yeah.
Like,
So I'm gonna hit play again.
yeah, back to the thing.
Was elected, right? Like all those guys, no, they weren't elected. But Elon Musk, he's a threat to democracy. He's a threat, guys. He's a threat. Yes, he exposed massive corruption in the government, but we don't
By
care.
doing
We don't
things
care. The
people
balls
like.
are big. We don't care. His balls are huge. He tweeted something racist 7 years ago. We don't want to talk about it. Donald Trump, he's a dictator. Anyway, let's dive into it, baby. Hope you're ready for one of the most insane reveals of modern history.
The battle against wokeness has been raging for longer than most of us realize. It's not only engulfed video games.
I mean, the battle against wokeness arguably has existed back like in the ancient times. Like ancient.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that's happening now is also a lot of the stuff that took down the Roman Empire. So,
I mean, I think that's a bit of a false equivalency, but I take the point.
obviously, it's not 1-to-1, but
Right. I'm just, yeah, like it's a bit of a reach to go back that far. I would go back personally to Hegel, because everything Hegel touches or anything Hegel's inheritors touched immediately ruins things and causes millions upon millions of deaths when applied in reality. But never mind. One more gulag
Ancient
to
times,
utopia, I'm sure.
thousands of years ago cultures battling against ideologies that give autonomy to basically emotional blackmail. Like, I feel like this is an ancient battle that has existed for as long as civilizations have existed, and it just reared its head in just an insane way right now.
Okay, Knox, I think
completely
you might be
changed
laying it a little bit thick there, my friend.
How so?
Like, yes, broadly speaking, this kind of conflict happens occasionally, but let's keep it to the actual parameters of social justice, aka wokeness, which I go back farther than most people and go to Hegel because it's neo-Hegelianism that's the problem, and or Rousseau-style liberalism that is the problem. I think while parallels might exist to other things, you're broadening the definition so far that it becomes farcical at that point. If you seriously want to parallel the fall of Rome to social justice, you can, but it kind of just makes you look like a guy pulling a gotcha at that point. Stick to the very particular parameters of the ideology in question is my point. Just like I acknowledge that family values traditionalism is a different kind of moral authoritarianism than social justice. They are both moralistic authoritarianism, but they are moralistic authoritarianism pointing in two different directions. And it is worthwhile to remember this is a particular entity. It is not some ever reoccurring meme. And it weakens us to overbroaden the definition, I think.
True. I mean, I agree with that. I mean, it is good to be precise and to use narrow definitions that people know exactly what you're talking about. But I do also, get essentially what you say.
Yeah, again, it's rhetorically nice and interesting as a parallel, but it does, to anyone who's not already sympathetic to the anti-social justice, anti-woke side of things, it sounds like a gotcha premise, and I would advise everyone to be wary of that.
How many different institutions work, from schools all the way up to government. As you all know, Trump won, and things have been changing.
Well, not everyone agrees. Some people think that Trump didn't actually win and he's a dictator, but those people have a disease. It's called being retarded.
And now there's this story that is pretty much, I would consider, to be one of the biggest stories right now.
It is. I think it's probably the biggest scandal in American history, is the fact that this amount of money was allegedly embezzled, okay, for crazy reasons. And every big streamer is literally silent about it. It's the only big, actual people in this space that I've seen talk about this shit are people like Casman Gold. I haven't seen anyone else talk about this.
I just want to mention, I mentioned before, one of the some of the judges are trying to, impede Trump's progress on cleaning up the government. I believe it came out that his wife runs a charity that receives money from USA.
It did.
I believe so. That's what I heard.
It certainly puts a new spin on the lawfare that's been happening for the last 2 or 3 years, hasn't it?
Yeah. Also, if we learned anything over the last few decades, it's that judges can be corrupt and ideological themselves.
Yeah, and the idea that it's somehow forbidden to mention that is farcical.
Yeah. And so do you remember when Elon Musk bought Twitter? He at one point tried to pull out of the deal, and then there was this judge who basically said, no, you have to buy it at this point.
Right.
Well, apparently that same judge was the judge who did the lawsuit that, where Elon basically forwent a salary at Tesla, and in exchange for, say, if I increase the company's value by so much, I get this much of a payout. And Elon did that, and the company was going to pay him out, but then I believe it was one guy who was a shareholder sued, and this judge, the same judge who forced Elon to buy Twitter, sided with that one guy and impeded Elon's payout.
So almost as if there's a personal bias there.
Yeah, and this woman, this judge, in order to spike Elon Musk, created precedent that just nuked her state's economy, the state of Delaware. So because of what she did, now it says that unless literally every single stockholder agrees on every single decision that the board makes, they can sue the company for billions of dollars. And so now the corporations that were incorporated in Delaware are now fleeing the state like a bat out of hell, taking billions of dollars out of Delaware's economy.
Well, interesting.
Because of the
Isn't Joe
consequences
Biden
of my own
also
actions.
from Delaware?
Yes, he is.
It's a small world after all.
She's ruining her whole state just to take a shot at Elon Musk. And the only way the decision can get overturned is if Elon appeals it, which he says he's not going to do. He's just going to leave, pack up his company and leave. So that precedent stands, and now every other corporation has to get the hell out of Delaware.
Well, and it's not surprising to me that this is entirely motivated by a form of moralistic spite, because for those that have been in the anti-SJW, anti-woke fight for a while, you know how deep and long and self-righteously the moralistic spite runs in these people. Look at the people who wrote She-Hulk. Look at the people who wrote The Acolyte, etc., ad nauseum. Like Velma, New Warriors. I'm blanking on a couple of the other famous ones, but you know what I'm saying. Almost invariably, when you give SJW types a IP that they didn't create or don't like, moralistically charged, academically endorsed spite is the order of the day. And I'm not surprised to see it happening on the legal side of things as well. Moralistically charged, self-righteous spite appears to be the only emotion these people are meaningfully motivated by, because they are that cynical and nihilistic at this point. It's utopia by way of spite, whether you like it or not.
I mean, they've always been spiteful bastards, but very rarely has it blown up in their faces this large. I mean, she decimated her state.
I mean, we're still in month one. There is time for the karma reaper to come for all the rest.
Yeah, it's things been going so fast that it's still hard to believe that this has only been less than a month.
Yep, we still have roughly a week before the actual first month will have concluded.
Yeah, we'll hit play again.
Yep.
And me, if you want to call me big in the space, but I'm not. I'm just a chaotic little fucker that's just out here to make content about chaos. But I don't know why no one else is talking about this fact. The fact that the woke culture in video games isn't natural. It's not something that naturally just existed. It's something that is actively paid for and artificially inflated. Isn't that fucking crazy?
When it comes to not just entertainment, but everything, to be honest. So, let's talk about how the U.S. government quite literally banged the opposition against things like Gamergate 1 and 2 and plenty of other things.
All right, I'm really excited for this breakdown. They literally infested the gaming industry.
They were bankrolling against us too, back in Comic Day.
Yeah, I'm again. Who here is surprised? Because I certainly am not. This is a very familiar piece of ground we're trotting here. But again, it's nice that they can no longer wave it away and go conspiracy theory, reactionary, etc.
Speaking of Comic Day, did you hear what happened to Diamond Distribution?
No, what happened?
I believe they filed for bankruptcy.
Ah, glorious. They fucked the industry nearly to death. They deserve it.
We did warn them.
Repeatedly. And for roughly a decade, we warned them. And again, vindication seems to be the word of the day, folks.
I mean, it is good to be proven right, but yeah, if only it just could have just been avoided entirely.
Well, yeah, and the fact that it's taken 12 years to even get this far is a little bit farcical too. Like,
I mean, it started with a culture war when the force of the United States government is literally pushing things in the opposite direction.
the good news is the current change of powers, being as it may, means that we can in fact beat the government. We can restore the period where governments are afraid of their people rather than people being afraid of their governments. The government is not some all-powerful moral force that is like a force of nature or something. We can and should and did fight the power and win. Keep this in mind, folks.
Industry, it's crazy.
Also, footage-wise, not much makes sense here, so I'm mostly just going to be playing dope gameplay from games I like here and there. Cool.
Right, makes sense, I guess.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, but another thing that it was recently just covered, and this is the craziest thing, is the U.S. was literally funding Hamas terrorists and Israel. Publicly, they were funding Israel, but behind the scenes, secretly, through this U.S. aids, they were funding Hamas terrorists. Bro! They were funding two sides of a war? Like, how does this help the American people? The fuck?
Yeah, so apparently our government was giving money to, I believe it was a cement company, and that cement company was used to basically build the underground tunnels in Gaza.
Well, I guess cue somebody like Dev going, but it's all part of the normative institutional bureaucracy, so it's fine. They have the appropriate paperwork. God damn it. Derp.
Dude, here, I just saw this clip, and it's insane. Look at this shit. This is wild. This is wild. All right, Benjamin, take it away. Top Jew.
Perhaps the worst expenditure from USAID. USAID in 2016 gave $310 million
That's a lot of money. That could have probably helped the price of eggs somehow.
of your taxpayer money to a Palestinian cement factory project.
I wonder what the cement was used for. Maybe it's the thousands of miles of underground tunnels that are used by terrorists. No, definitely not that.
It was a private venture by a company called Sanad to create cement mills and factories. What do you think they needed all that cement for? What do you think they used all that cement for? I'll give you three guesses.
I'm guessing the thousands of miles of terrorist tunnels. No.
What did the
Hold on. You mentioned chickens and the price of eggs. Like, how the price of eggs have been gone up, and people have tried to blame Trump for it, even though it's been less than a month. But do you know why they went up?
Because some government bureaucrat slaughtered a bunch of chickens in the name of preventing salmonella, derp.
It was bird flu, but you're essentially on the mark.
Mm.
Yeah, the thing is, the like one guy had bird flu. He didn't work in the chicken industry. They tested the chickens. There was no bird flu amongst the chickens, but still some moronic government bureaucrat ordered basically genocide of chickens across the country, and so now the price of eggs and chicken is going up.
Well, it's kind of like the aforementioned statistics ostrich that is David Pakman, burying his head in the bureaucratic statistics for 4 years in defiance of people's, bank accounts and so on. And now that he and his side have lost, they're going to blame those 4 years of inflation that he ignored because the bureaucracy said so on Trump. And he's still not going to acknowledge that he was ever wrong about buying into the statistics wholesale for no good reason. It's stunning. The same people who are saying, "What do you mean you're voting on the economy? The economy's great, derp," are now saying, "Oh, well, now that Orange Man is in office, now we can talk about the price of everything going through the roof." Even though I'm
So
not going to
things
admit
like,
that I was wrong about the previous 4 years where it did the same thing.
regarding the government statistics, like we know repeatedly that they just outright freaking lied to us about those reports, and specifically about the economy. I think it recently came out that like the unemployment rate under Biden was actually something like 23% when they were saying that everything was going fine and people are working. He's like, they set everything on fire and then did everything they could to cover it up and try and gaslight people.
And meanwhile, people like David Pakman did their best impression of an ostrich burying themselves in statistics to the sand.
Yeah, I remember watching Voss's election night stream, and when it was clear that Trump was going to win, he said that people just forget about Trump, about how everything was on fire during Trump, and then under Biden, nothing much was happening. He was like, just how do you just invert reality that way?
Well, it's kind of like at the beginning of that very same election stream, he's like, in what world could Trump possibly landslide? To which everyone in the chat was just being like, this one. This is that world, Vosh. God damn it.
Palestinians in Gaza use all that cement for, paid for by your taxpayer dollars? Any ideas?
That was my only guess.
Oh yeah, that would be the 300 miles of terror tunnels that Hamas built underneath the Gaza Strip, leading
Terrorists, by the way.
to the
Which,
complete
sadly
destruction of
enough,
the Gaza Strip.
It makes me think of that
And
old
the Gaza Strip was
Lion
bombed
King
a
1.5
lot.
movie with the Dig a Tunnel song.
I remember that. It was What About Timon and Pumbaa?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that song as well. But didn't all those tunnels like basically undermine the infrastructure, which made buildings collapse much faster?
You'd think so.
I'm pretty sure that's what I heard.
To get into those tunnels. Interesting.
After October 7th.
Weird. That's crazy. So they literally funded the terrorists, and then they funded the people blowing up the terrorists. What the fuck?
So just slow clap.
Bro, honestly, this is not slow clap. This is insane.
All right, let me just talk and show you lots of examples. So this all stems from USAID.
The tunnels cost thousands of lives of Israelis and Palestinians. It's insane. It is absolutely mind-bogglingly corrupt and insane. This is the biggest scandal in American history. This is some real heresy, bro. Charge your flamers. This is actual heresy, dude. Holy crap, bro. At least the Jews in New York make tunnels for free.
Which stands for the U.S. Agency of International Development. I'll be calling it USAID for the...
I call it US AIDS. Because they live... Okay, that was going to be a really racist joke. Yeah, I'm going to say it anyway. They're funding gay sex across the world, and they're called US AIDS. Coincidence? Okay, that was... It was...
Fair play, Nux. That is... Here, take my gay card. You can shield yourself on this one, Nux. God damn it.
I mean, the sheer number of LGBT projects that they're funding in countries that, like,
The third world?
all over the world. Yeah, it's like, I'm pretty sure nobody in these areas cares about these things.
Quite a lot of people in, the actual homestead don't particularly care about these things, and the unnecessary fixation on them only serves to make public acceptance go down. Because, I remember, a decade or so ago, when the response to being gay was just sort of shrug and then on we move. Whereas now, because of the machinations of the movement erstwhilely known as social justice and now known as wokeness, the approval rating has gone down because the activists have made such utter blue tits of themselves that that people associate gayness with overbearing moralism now, which does not help people like me who are still on the position of fuck morality, irreverence is good and based.
I don't disagree with the fuck morality part of that.
It was there. It had to be said. It had to be said.
The rest of this video, if you don't mind, as stated here via Fox News. On his first day back in office, Trump issued an executive order halting most foreign aid actions, asserting that the United States foreign aid industry and bureaucracy are not aligned with American interests and in many cases antithetical to American values.
Antithetical, but yeah, it's crazy.
2 weeks later, he blasted the agency for being run by radical lunatics.
All
A
right.
part of these discoveries by Trump's administration, they discovered that this organization was actually funding misinformation campaigns across the entire.
The craziest thing. Imagine your tax money literally going into this government slop festival to fund misinformation campaigns, to put woke shit in video games.
All the while they accuse us of being conspiratorial and misinformed. They're...
You gotta think, these games, like, they've been flopping, like, for years now. You gotta think, like, without this money, how many game studios would just outright collapse?
Well, how much of this entire culture war could have been avoided if they just didn't do it? Because don't try to convince me that Anita wasn't on dozens of people's payroll. She made millions of dollars before she even finished her main series. Like, it is still technically unfinished, and she still made millions of dollars of victimhood money. I would be very surprised if none of that money glowed or had corporate interests attached to it.
I mean, you know, we like, suspected this, like, for years. We suspected that, like, something had to be behind this. We thought it was just, like, you know, George Soros types of just wealthy people like BlackRock and, you know, just like, you know, corporate interests.
Yeah, ESG and DEI, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, we thought it was just like corporate interests, but like to now know that the government was also like behind this as well, it really was like just a massive force of titans that we were trying to push back against.
And yet somehow they still lost, almost as though objective reality and objective logic still matter or something.
That's crazy. How insane is that? Like I understand. Listen, the past isn't the past. We can't change the past. The past is history. The future is a mystery. But today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. Quote from Donald J. Trump and Master Oogway.
Entirety of American culture and beyond. We're talking movies, games, TV, ad placements, books, schools, pretty much everything.
Yeah, where did they get $400 million to spend on the acolytes, lesbian space witches? Where do you think they got that money? Disney Plus losing money on TV shows. How the fuck did they have $400 million to spend on the acolyte? Where did the $400 million come from that they spent on Concord? You know, the biggest failure in gaming history? A game so bad and so woke that it died in a week after they spent $400 million on it? Where did this money come from, huh? Huh?
Ironically, U.S. aid was originally founded in 1961 for the sole reason of countering communism propaganda that was targeting the American people. In
the irony that now it's actually, it's become the propaganda it's for to destroy. Holy shit.
Hopes of destroying the American culture. And now the very same organization was instead funding the very communism that it was built to defeat.
How about the government just shouldn't make propaganda in the first fucking place? How about that? How about it doesn't matter whether you're red scaring or social justicing or Me Tooing, the government shouldn't be involved in propaganda, period. Like, well, where is that reasonable position at?
I would say that if the government is propagandizing to another country, telling them, hey, do not slaughter innocent civilians, like, I would consider that good propaganda.
Okay, fair. There's some mechanism for outreach, but there's a difference between that kind of outreach and out propaganda, which, whether it be the Red Scare or the Green Scare, because we all know how much these people hate capitalism, whether it be the Red Scare or the Green Scare, how about the government just shouldn't do that, period. This should not be a function of the government, full stop.
Especially against its own people. Like, Jesus. But like that just goes to show that we're not living in a democracy; that we were living in a bureaucracy.
Yeah, that's why whenever they mention democracy, the word in front of it is always our democracy. They don't mean people when they say our, they mean the valid people, which when you translate it from Newspeak means aristocracy. A democracy of the valid people is just another long-winded way of saying an aristocracy in all but name.
Yeah, and despite what all the coping, talking heads on the news say, Donald Trump winning an election and then doing what he promised the people that he would do is not a threat to democracy. It is in fact democracy itself.
It's not only democracy, it's democracy functioning better than it has for literal 20 years. And I can say that because I was born in 1995, and Trump is the very first politician to actually attempt to do the things he promised he would do on the campaign trail. That shouldn't be the accolade that it is, because that should just be normal. But the fact that it isn't normal means that the one guy doing his job when everyone else is going out of their way to undo their jobs is stunning. Actually stunning and brave. TM.
Yeah, and the ironic thing is that if they hadn't tried to destroy him and literally kill him, Trump would not nearly be as relentless as he is. They literally helped Trump to achieve his final form.
Well, it's also telling that if all of this literal government agitprop didn't exist to foment the culture war in geek spaces, we'd still be living in the environment of like 2010, 2012 era YouTube. And fandoms wouldn't be at each other's throats because of this bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, YouTube is like awful now. Like, whenever I try to look up a video about a news story, like they only give you the mainstream media. And who the fuck goes to YouTube to listen to the mainstream media?
No one in actuality, but the powers that be must insist that it be that way because they're the only valid answer. Raw.
Yeah, I think after how badly they all called that election, they should take their accreditations back.
Yeah, the legitimacy, authority, and validity TM is not worth the paper it's printed on, and it hasn't. And we've been saying that for quite some time, but now we actually have the receipts.
America and its allies completely.
Insane. Yeah, so I have covered the U.S. AIDS situation in the past. Today, I'm specifically doing a deep dive into what it did in like gaming and entertainment culture. That's why I'm here. I already covered them sending $50 million worth of condoms to Gaza and shit like that. But whatever.
Wokeness, as it turns out, was never just some random thing that just rised out of nowhere.
Crazy, huh?
Well, it rose out of academia,
were
first
right.
and foremost. And then the academics went to the government and said, give me the monies. And the government gave them the monies.
Yeah, well, we know it rose out of academia, but I think like to the average person who was just basically going about their lives, it seems to have just appeared out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
You can call me a conspiracy theorist, but you can't call me wrong, motherfucker.
It was actually, like I have predicted and have been covering for years now, a calculated attack to destabilize and destroy first world countries to usher in new ideologies and demographics.
Interesting.
As we all know, there was a shift somewhere in the 2010s when content like video games especially went from being great to suddenly pushing narratives within these games.
Interesting, huh?
2013.
How did that happen? How do we get this? How did
You were saying?
2013 is where I normally put the threshold, because that's where the Ask Me About the Feminist Agenda t-shirt in the Spider-Man comic came from. That's where the famous Batman or Batgirl cover of the Joker holding a gun to her came from. That's where all different Marvel came in, and you had female Thor don't treat feminism like a four-letter word, etc. That's 2013, and like the preludes to Gamergate is where I stick that starting line.
How did this come naturally? Probably it was probably because all of the fat lesbians wanted to. They all wanted representation in video games, huh? They were probably missing out. That's probably why it happened naturally, right? Or
Sure, there was politics in games still, but mostly the political themes were usually tied to their unique worlds and
yeah,
concepts.
obviously politics. Saying, of course, there could be politics in games. There's politics in Lord of the Rings. Okay, there's politics in Game of Thrones. No one's complaining about that. It's the
Okay.
complaint is
I'm
the
gonna
obvious
be extremely
ideological
pedantic
pandering.
here, and draw a line between politics and philosophy, because that is actually the difference. One of these was philosophy, i.e., a philosophical discussion or philosophical like display of multiple premises, and the other was politics. The other was we already have the correct answers. There's no point in asking the questions anymore. So that's the distinction I draw. You can have philosophy without politics, and therein lies the difference. And drawing the distinction between politics and philosophy is a very important thing that we need to start doing more of.
I think he was mentioning more of the in-world politics, like the in-world politics of Game of Thrones, or the fact that in Lord of the Rings that the elf and the dwarves don't like each other,
Right,
or
right, but the opposition is going to take that and run with it, and I don't think we should give them that concession. We need to start differentiating between politics and philosophy so that they can no longer poll that everything is political derp bullshit. But yes, also based because in universe logic, we have come to a time where if you care about things like in-universe logic, in-universe mechanics, consistent characterization, or complex world building, you will get called media illiterate by these Frankfurt School infused hacks. And it's nice to see a reference to in-universe logic being restored.
I hate those people. The same people who complain about media literacy are the same people that try and ship Sam and Frodo.
Or Bucky and Cap, or God only knows who else.
It's to them, like everything has to be some sort of sexual dynamic, like just two people like caring deeply for a friend. Like it's just so alien to them. Like
It's the only way they understand intimacy. A lot of them.
what's that quote? Those who only believe that friendship as a symbology for eros reveal the fact that they've never had a friend. I forget who said that.
Who was that? It might have been Aristotle, but don't like quote me on that. I do know that he did quite a lot of work on the different kinds of love and the different kinds of friendship. So it probably was Aristotle, but I again, don't quote me. Anyway, moving on.
Dude, my dad, it's hilarious. He's like, I don't understand. Every time I watch a show on Netflix, by coincidence, there's like gay sex scenes. Like I never used to see this. I'm like, yeah, Dad, it's a coincidence. It's a coinkydink.
For an example, The Witcher 3. That has political themes since Geralt does deal with kings and other lords of certain lands in places like Skellige. But these are not political in the sense that they are talking down to you, the player. They are simply presenting the political climate of their world within their games under their own rules and traditions. That's totally fine. But this is
universe logic.
No one's complaining about politics in games. People are complaining about pushing modern politics into a game world that it doesn't belong.
As to say the many
authoritarian moralism is again the issue.
Every time they do that, it falls so flat. Like it just fails because it's not a story at that point. It's a lecture.
Well, yeah, and it breaks everything immersive about the story, as it is actually academically wants to do, because the key feature of this ideology that used to be called social justice and is now called wokeness is not even the identity politics. The identity politics is a means to an end as well. The core issue with social justice / wokeness is the deliberate inversion, contradiction, and counteraction of any standard of quality, merit, or style in a substantive way. The idea that all forms or types of merit are harmful, illusory, delusional social constructs that we have a moral duty to deconvert people from by as overtly inverting it as we can. You can have stories about characters of any given identity so long as that aspect is not operative. But no story where that aspect is operative will ever work.
It's bad enough when they do that to their own stories, but like when these are long-established franchises that people care about and also have their own rich history and lore, it's very painful as a fan to watch them break something you love in order to like shove it into their ideological box.
Well, and that's the thing. 9 times out of 10, it will be an already established IP because they don't actually like art for its own sake. They see art only as a means to an end, to the point that if you mention, like we were just saying, if you mention something about in-universe logic, in-universe mechanics, consistency of world building and character, they will call you media illiterate, because in academia, in the kind of post-Frankfurt School critical theory milieu, in-universe logic is a childish delusion that only babies think of. The purpose of art is didacticism, diegesis, and methemes.
Games that released in 2020 and beyond that specifically targeted and tried to ruin established white characters, for example, and destroy franchises and degrade the male archetype specifically.
It's a coincidence that they're all girl bosses, okay? It's a coincidence that all the men became lame and gay and all the women are badasses and awesome and have no flaws, okay? It's a coincidence. It happened naturally. It's just, you're a racist for arguing, probably.
And you're media illiterate for even noticing the contradiction of world
A
building.
good example of this, Suicide Squad, where every single villain is a man, every white man is definitely a bad guy pretty much,
Makes sense to me.
and the only good Justice League member is, unsurprisingly, Wonder Woman.
No shot. There's no way.
I'm so glad that this game failed the way it did. Like, it completely ruined the legacy of the characters, especially the Rocksteady Batman from the Arkham game, which everybody loved.
Mm-hmm.
And so now they try to walk it back by saying that all these characters are clones, except for probably Wonder Woman. So, like, the Justice League is still alive. The Suicide Squad killed clones of them, but Wonder Woman is now dead for real.
Wasn't that one of Kevin Conroy's last voice acting roles as well?
Yes, it was.
May the ghost of Kevin Conroy have Batman's trademark vengeance on your soul. God damn it!
Yeah. So like.
Coincidence? I wonder why this was such a massive industry flop. It's almost like there was no passion put into this. Crazy.
While I can't confirm yet if Sweet Baby was and somehow tied to this US aid fund thing at this point,
I wonder.
I really wouldn't be surprised. But what Trump has done here in one fell swoop, as I will show you plenty of examples from all over, he has effectively cut off the money from these organizations and operations completely.
Yeah, they're going to be mega cooked. They're going to be so cooked, bro. They're going to be massive cooked. Mega ultra cooked.
Which I wonder how long it's going to be before things start going back to some semblance of meritocracy and some semblance of normal. Like,
Well, it may be a little while because these people aren't just going to acquiesce to the will of Sir Donald of Orange. They're going to fight with everything they've got, and
Right.
they said that an animal is most dangerous when it believes that it's dying. So,
Yeah, the old tiger sensing the end is at its most fierce, to quote Alan Quartermain from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
yeah. So like they're definitely going to try and fight this. And they've been fighting it. It's a losing battle because we have so much momentum on our side. But like, they're not going to just go
Well,
quietly.
it is worth noting once again that it took us 12 years, if you count it from like the beginnings of like the social justice inroads into comics and video games to now. It's taken us 12 years from 2013 to now to even get this far. And we're still in the things that should have been common sense all along phase.
Yeah, but like again, these people still do have a lot of positions of power. Like they don't have the main ones, but like they still have influence, and so that's going to be difficult to get rid of. Like I did hear that Sony's planning on closing its California office, something I've wanted since time immemorial.
So we're making progress on the push California into the ocean like Numenor plan.
I mean, this said it'll burn down before that happens.
Well, I mean, God did promise to never use water again, so fire, I suppose, works.
1,000 employees of U.S. aid were fired effective immediately following this executive order. This order will cut and destroy any contract that is being determined as a threat against American democracy and free speech in any way.
It literally is. If propaganda is literally being funded by the government, that's insane. Wait, apparently there is no. Rocksteady reportedly working on a single-player Batman game. U.S. aid funded Sweet Baby Inc. Are they funding IGN too? Wait, what? U.S. aid gave over $300,000 to Sweet Baby Inc.
Why do we end up paying for everything that hurts us?
Because the people in power listens to academia, and academia hates the idea of merit and wants to deconvert people from it by showing that merit is just a harmful delusion that people need to be deconverted from.
Couldn't they do that in ways that didn't harm my entertainment?
No, because that as long as something that has merit continues to exist, the enemy that they want to vanquish is not vanquished. So they must unmerit all the meritocratic things. Otherwise, they will lose, because people will stubbornly insist on consuming things with merits, and that buggers their framework entirely.
Good. When these companies like Ubisoft, BioWare,
Games Workshop.
yeah, Blizzard, Activision, when all these shits just fucking collapse, I'm not going to shed a single fucking tear for any of them.
I'm waiting for the day that Marvel and DC collapse so I can buy the characters back that I want. Like, because Lord knows y'all haven't been being good stewards of them for a while, so I will crowdfund and buy them from you when they go on the market, so that only I can store these characters.
I mean, I'd love for that to happen, but aren't DC and Marvel both owned by like massive corporations themselves? So like Marvel and DC may collapse, but like wouldn't the corporations that are over them still own the rights to the characters?
I mean, Disney is, on a downward spiral, and Warner Brothers has been on a downward spiral since like 2013. So it is entirely possible that we might be able to kill the companies themselves as well, or rather just wait for them to do it themselves, because they apparently insist on the death by 1,000 paper cuts method.
I mean, if in our lifetime Disney and Warner Brothers collapse, that will genuinely be the end of an era in America.
Yep. I've heard Universal wants to buy Warner Brothers.
Who does Universal own now?
DreamWorks Animation and Illumination. Trying to think of who else they own. Can't think off the top of my head. Obviously, the original Universal. I can't think of any others.
But didn't they try to make their own cinema universe with that Tom Cruise Mummy movie?
They did. It failed horribly. They're taking another stab at it.
Yeah. These I would honestly think that if they did something more classical, like kind of like Nosferatu, that might work.
Yeah.
That's insane! These people are nutcases, Sweet Baby Inc. Oh my god! It's like all the corruption is literally all it's in one little hodgepodge. Love that. It just pops out of the woodwork. Oh my god, these snakes! And see, and I told you, how does it make sense that they have this much power, this much money, this much direct impact? Interesting. Nice shocker moment right there. That's great.
Because academia forged the One Ring and then gave it to the government. Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Now we've thrown it into Mount Doom. And now all that's left is for Aragon to wipe the orbs from the face of Middle Earth.
Yeah, just JD, my friend, my brother in, well, not my brother in Christ, but a brother in Christ. For the love of all that is holy, JD Vance, do not pull a Boromir. There is no good use that ring can be put to. For the love of all that is holy.
I highly doubt that he's ever going to do that. Did you see his speech in Europe?
Yes.
Look, if that is any indication as to the kind of person that he is, I don't think we have much to worry about.
That may be as it may. I'm just saying because unless the Democrats suddenly grow a spine and a brain in the next couple election cycles, I foresee J.D. Vance being the president until about 2036. I don't know what happens after that, but if these shadows remain unaltered by the future, J.D. Vance is likely to be president until 2036. So please just resist the Boromir urge.
I think Trump didn't realize this in his first term. And I think that after the second, after he claims the election was stolen by the deep state and the country was literally run by a shadow government for 4 years where, well, look, we saw Biden. He was not running the country. And we saw Kamala rambling. She was not running the country. God.
I mean, he's right. Neither
Correct. Corrected based.
Knows who was running the fucking country for 4 years. After that went down, I feel like Trump was like, you know what, gloves off. Let's just see what's actually going. The government tried to kill gaming. What the fuck? That's crazy. What is happening? Trump's second election, as we call it here. I don't want to call it my second term. I prefer to refer to it as the second coming of Trump. Don't worry. It's not controversial. Second term is a little old. It's used. Second coming of Trump. It's going to be crazy.
So what does this mean for wokeness, you may be asking? It's simple. These programs and things like pushing transgenderism in schools, for example, these are all politically motivated ideologies that were pushed and tied to U.S. aid. You ever wonder?
It's insane. It's insane, dude. Holy shit. This has all been going on. Like, all these things that are allegedly, like, pushing... Like, all the people pushing this are in question now. Every single person that pushes different agendas and propagandas and all that shit.
20 years from now, people are going to be so confused that this era existed. and yet we're just gonna have to sit there and go, "Yep, it took us 12 years to even get this far."
Yeah. I wonder what my niece is gonna think whenever she like reads about a lot of this stuff in her history books.
Well, in theory, assuming YouTube doesn't, die, or the content on YouTube doesn't die in the interim, people will be able to watch old videos of this happening, like our old live streams on I Love Comics, our, live streams here, etc. But no, I can confirm for those children who may be watching this in the future, this era did happen. It was not a fad or a thing. It was 12 solid years of speaking sense to people who were not sensible, and only now getting some movement in the proper direction. If we are successful, this era of history will be completely incomprehensible to you. I look forward to that day. I look forward to that day when none of this seems sensible anymore, because things have gotten so good that people wonder, as we often wonder about past eras, how could it ever have gotten this far? But no, it did. I can confirm, future children.
If you think it's bad having to, learn about it and listen about it, imagine us having to suffer through it.
Yep, we lived through this. There's live streams we've been doing since like 2016, and so yeah, it happened, guys. I know it sounds like the plot of a dystopia novel, but it did in fact happen, and technically is still happening, because this is only the beginning of the pushback.
Yeah, like we've said, it's only been like less than a month since Trump has been in office. We still got 4 more years to try and fix this stuff.
Yeah, and it took 12 years to get this far, so it might take until the end of JD's second term before we're actually, back to some kind of, 90s era normal.
Yes, and considering how much it's a lot easier to destroy things than it is to fix them. When you consider how much damage Biden was able to do just in one term, like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to take a while to fix, definitely.
Yep.
Is it real? Or was it just people heard it by big amounts of money trickling into different places because the government felt like doing that? Holy shit.
Why so many of these websites like Kotaku and others could afford for years to push out absolute slop and then attack their player bases,
Bro.
despite their websites having horrible retention numbers.
I wonder how many of these game journalist websites are going to die now that they don't have this fucking coke drip of government funding.
In a merciful universe, all of them
dies within the next 4 years. That would be so fun. That would be hilarious. God, the chaos is so good. All this nuts content. God, thank you for this content. I appreciate it.
And bad viewerships and subscriber counts too. How could
And
Kotaku?
the craziest thing is, no one is talking about this. This is like some silent thing. Where are all the big YouTubers in the gaming space? All the big commentary gamer YouTuber people? This is the biggest scandal in gaming history. All this shit was literally just drip fed into games.
I mean, it seems that way, but like, to me, when I really, actually took the time to notice it, all of a sudden it was just basically all around me.
And if I recall correctly, you were called white because a black person could never have the opinions you have.
Yeah, I got to white the conversation multiple times just for like wondering what the hell is going on with these things, because like these people like who seem to claim to care about racism so damn much have made racism so much fucking worse.
Yep, just like the gay acceptance thing. It peaked in like 2010 and has been on a downward spiral ever since then, because people conflate the gay community, the actual one, with the LGBT activist and the critical queer theory of academia nonsense.
You just so like people compare black people to the black criminals that they'll see on videos that go viral on freaking social media. Just like
Or the BLM Antifa team ups that level entire neighborhoods at a time.
you're like, I hate those people twice as much as anybody else possibly could. Like, because I'm the one who actually gets compared to those motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm. Same thing with me and the LGBT nonsense. Like, I do just want to find my Prince Charming someday and live a safe, happy, monogamous relationship. I just want to be able. I honestly just want to be able to walk down the street holding my significant other's hand, or maybe kissing him a little bit, and have people not give me the side eye. Is that so much to ask?
No, but it's too much to ask when you're living in a world filled with progressives. Because they'll just
Yeah, when people are unironically saying things like "we will convert your children."
and like the whole like drag queen like story hour shit. Like that is when like the anti shit just went into full fucking gear when they started like messing with people's children.
Yeah, when they started embracing the straw man that the tradcons used to have of us, and apparently half of us were sincere about that, and the other half were apparently just tactically concealing their power levels, I guess, is the best way of putting it.
Let me just
Yep.
Like, artificially, all the conspiracy theorists were like actually just correct all along.
Haku, Vice, and specifically political content creators all be able to push their pro-communism and
Yeah, I wonder if political content creators were actually funded. I wonder if how many bots are watching Hassan's streams.
anti-conservative content all day, every day, pretty much, despite not really making a profit from it. The answer is what is going on here. Let me explain. We have the one content creator. His name is Vosh.
What the fuck? Vosh comes dude, this guy? No! Look, Hassan, he's never been banned. He makes his millions on Twitch. He has a large following, even though he actually promotes terrorist propaganda on his streams. But Vosh, the horse guy?
Vosh is absolutely one of the worst.
Yeah, no, he is a despicable, intellectually
you're
dishonest twat.
And just the thing with these people is that they're just so arrogant. For people who claim to be so intelligent, they are so arrogant that they never even consider the possibility that they could be wrong.
Yeah, the Dunning-Kruger isolationism.
Yes, they're deep in the valley.
Mm-hmm.
But
Where? Bro galloped out of nowhere with this one. Bro, listen, you can bring the horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. All right, for anyone that doesn't understand the context, Vosh is a leftist political streamer that very often advocates for violence against people that he doesn't like. And also, he's been caught with some crazy shit in his trough.
And blames other people when they're the victims of violence, a la the Kyle Rittenhouse debacle.
yeah, and also insults people who disagree with him, and also
thought that a Trump landslide was the most impossible thing in the universe, which that one aged like unpasteurized milk, didn't it, Vosh?
He also apparently lives in an alternate freaking dimension because anybody who was living in the actual real world could see what was going to happen on election night coming from a mile away.
Yeah, he literally at one point asked, in what world is a Trump landslide going to come from? And my initial response was and remains this one. This is that world. You are sitting in it now.
Giant folder of him having lolicon horse porn. And it's very funny for me personally, as someone that is very funny. I think personally it's very hilarious. For those of you that are aware, it's like, oh no, I can't believe this guy has been caught with horse lolly porn. No! Don't be one of the fucking losers that are upset by this. Laugh. It's hilarious. It's very funny.
I don't like this guy. He's a weirdo that has tried for years to push the idea that the age of consent should be lowered.
Oh, he also has like a million.
Oh yeah, he also said that. I completely forgot about it.
Oh dear. There are so many bad Vosh takes, you honestly forget them.
Yes. Also, for future generations, and just to make sure you know, these were our enemies. Like,
And yet
these-
they were the ones that the establishment regime and all the money and power was on the side of. And all the academic theory was behind.
yeah, these were the people that the previous regime deemed as good and acceptable.
And preferable to us.
Clips arguing about the age of consent. He also argues about, okay, if you want to get into the Vosh rabbit hole, I've been there. Listen. I do not go out of my way just to target woke people or leftist content creators. All right, I've covered plenty right-wing crash outs over my years. There was that one senator guy that was caught having sex with 94 men, even though he was anti-gay people. I covered that guy. All right, listen, I'll just be real. I've covered Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate's but this guy, he has so many different debates arguing about ethical child porn. Bro, you don't understand the rabbit hole. Listen, I love chaos, and there's chaos to be had.
Which is, very weird, but he does do that. He was also seen
I can even try if I can find you this clip. Vosh. You know what? I'm not going to look at it on YouTube. I'm going to look for it on Twitter. Someone on Twitter some mad lad on Twitter has to post this shit. Vosh. CP. Oh, God, that sounds so wrong.
Actually, I don't want to hear Vosh arguing about that because it's dumb and cringe, and I don't want it on our stream.
Yeah, and again, Bosch is a utterly despicable and utterly out of touch human being. So, silence communist is the answer there.
What? Oh, is he sweating?
Crazy things are getting over here. Literally, like at any moment, you know that? They could just say, hey, YouTube, it's un-American of you to allow left-leaning people to post videos.
No, Vosh, what's going to happen there is we are going to actually magnify your voice so that everyone can hear how insane you sound. Because the funny thing is, when someone is actually in the right or actually in the wrong, diminishing or granting them greater sway only makes them either disintegrate or integrate faster. And your side is the disintegrating side. I'm sorry, sir. So we will milk people like you for all you're worth because you make it very excellent for us to point at and go, this is the sort of person you will become if these shadows remain unaltered, etc.
Yes, we aren't going to. We're not going to ban people like Vosh. We're just going to make it cringe to be associated with that.
Yeah, as Napoleon is said to have said, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake.
And they're making a lot of mistakes right now because they can't help it.
Yeah, it's a series of like Looney Tunes. There are pratfalls, is what it is, and we are not yet out of banana peel. We have not even begun to banana peel yet.
All right, we've been going for almost half an hour, so I'm going to let it play a little bit more, and then we'll wrap up.
Yep.
Is he crashing out? What is going on? What, you think YouTube is just going to... Wait. So you're telling me that the pro-free speech guys are going to ban all leftist people off YouTube? Bro, stop horsing around.
Communist videos are pro-China. Kablamo, I'm out. And that's a little scary. That's it's literally like
God.
There's no, like it's a day-by-day thing. I wake up every morning and I check. So I'm just...
Vosh fears what his political opposition has been sharing and living with for like the last 10 years.
Yeah, and again, I hope he's wrong. I hope we never have anyone try to use the One Ring for good, because the Boromir solution never works. But at the same time, Schadenfreude.
Just saying, in the meantime, maybe I'm a little bit more like and subscribey than usual.
He's scared of his funding now that U.S. aid is shut down. I mean, this is definitely a compelling narrative. I don't think that U.S. aid is paying Vosh. I'm gonna be real here. I think that's crazy. I think that's wild. But I want confirmation before I'm actually gonna sit here. Him just begging for money. You know what? I'm curious. I'm curious. How many?
No, I also don't think that USA is paying Vosh, but I also didn't think that USA was funding transgender comic books, and who the fuck cares? But it was.
Stranger things have happened, and as is so often the case, reality is very much stranger than fiction.
How many views does Horseboy get? How many views does Horseboy get over here? All right, Vosh. Million views a month is this is over $50,000 a month in just ad revenue. Is it because there's bots watching him?
I think this is just spiraled into
That's
Nux
crazy.
owning Vosh, which is nice, but not really relevant.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and see if we can skip back to the point.
People worldwide that the first Swedish people were in fact black people with blue eyes.
There's no way that's real. That's America, baby.
Kid you not, one of US aid's care packages was to push safe sex in Afghanistan, apparently of all places.
The funniest thing is they wanted to send condoms, 50 million.
There.
I don't think we should be giving any money to Afghanistan, considering that one, we just put out of there, and two, the horrific things they do to young boys.
Certainly not for that anyway. But I have to use the restroom, so maybe this would be a good place to call it.
Yeah. All right. So, do you have any final words, or do you just want to head out?
It's interesting to see everything that we thought was true in 2013 through 2016 be confirmed, and sometimes Chicken Little knows what he's talking about. So avoid the sky, and we'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers, guys.
Bye, everybody.